Okay.
All right, I almost always start with how many of my typing sessions have you seen before?
I would say around 30.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't know if I've heard quite that high a number said before. Okay, uh, so you probably have a very good sense of what I'm going for when I'm asking certain kind of questions, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right, cool. All right, so then let's start with introverted sensing. And let's start with the kind of physical side of it, or the real time side of it. Can you talk to me about your sleeping habits, and both in terms of how many hours you need and whether it's easy or hard to fall asleep?
Okay. Um, so usually I stand up for working at 8:30, so I try to get at least 7 hours sleep. So I go to bed before 1 a.m. in the morning. Um, that works pretty well. And if I go to sleep, I just usually roll on my right side and fall asleep within 10 minutes.
Okay. And do you have a like something you do every time you go to sleep that's the same, such as you might roll back and forth until you find a really settled spot, and you do that every night, or do you not recall exactly, or something else?
I just roll to my right side because I sleep better on this one when I walk. That's all. And I before I set my alarm.
Do you stay on your right side all night long?
No,
Do you ever sleep on your back?
you sleep when I what?
Do you ever sleep on your back?
Oh, on my back. No, don't think so. No.
Do you ever sleep on your stomach?
Yes.
Okay. And you prefer sleeping on your right side, not your left side?
Yeah. No, at least for falling into sleep. I don't know why it works better.
I'm the opposite. You know, it's like I have to be on my left side. Or I don't have to be, but it's better. Yeah.
It's better. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so are you right handed?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a preferred side of the bed that you sleep on? Or do you like to try to sleep in the
It.
middle?
I mean, it's a single bed,
Oh, okay.
so I'm just in the middle of it.
Okay. Do you do you feel like it bothers you that you don't have a lot of room to roll around? Would you like to have a bigger
No.
bed? No.
No, I never fell out of my bed.
Well, I don't mean falling out, but just
I
that.
don't know. That's a good question.
Okay. Can you talk to me about your eating habits now? Do you eat meals at regular times, just when you get
Yes.
hungry? Oh,
No,
regular.
at regular times. At regular times.
And like, do you know what meal time is it wherever you are? Is it breakfast, lunch, or dinner time?
Now, currently it's 8 o'clock p.m., so it's dinner time.
Okay, so do you know now what you're gonna have to eat tomorrow?
Yes.
You already know.
Yeah.
And is it because it's always the same thing, or is it because you plan this stuff out ahead of time?
I mean, the breakfast is always the same. It's always a fruit salad with an apple and banana and some cheap yogurt. And for lunch, I know what I will have tomorrow.
Okay,
Evening, evening is not yet clear.
okay. Do you like to try to get something fresh from the store to cook with for like each dinner,
Uh,
or it doesn't really matter?
I currently I just either I warm it up or I put it, or if it's frozen, I put it into to the oven.
Somebody else. Oh, who else was it? Oh, Aga says it like that. Now Aga's Polish. She says
Hmm.
oven as well. Of course,
How is it called? Is
it's
it called an
pronounced
oven?
oven.
Oven. Okay,
Yeah,
oven.
yeah. So it must be a I don't know, Germany, Poland area, Europe thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So, can you tell me about plans that stretch out beyond 1 or 2 days? So, in other words, do you have any longer term plans? Like, I'm going to go to travel to Argentina next summer, and then the summer
No,
after that.
I plan in June. I plan to go to the Netherlands again, to Amsterdam. I haven't been there for 3 years because of COVID, but now I want to go again.
Okay, cool. And is this something that you predicate on finding like a good hotel deal and going, okay, well, I can't pass this up, or is it more like I need to get, I'm going to go to Amsterdam, so let me find the best deal I can?
To find the best deal.
Yeah, like
Um,
let's say you're going to travel there and stay in a hotel.
yeah,
Well, one of them costs 500 euros a night. One of them only costs 50 euros a night. The good deal is 50 euros a night.
oh no, I will go for the. I want some kind of luxury, so I want to get not a small flat. I will not go to Amsterdam. I will go to Alkmaar because it's half the price there.
Okay. So,
And from Alkmaar, it's only 30 minutes by train to Amsterdam. So
are train tickets relatively inexpensive or what?
very inexpensive in the Netherlands and extremely good public transport.
Is that where you get to the nether world from?
The
Meaning,
Netherworld.
yeah, it means the land of the dead, where all the dead
Uh,
souls live, across the river Styx.
in the Netherlands,
No,
no.
okay. Do they
No,
speak?
I think it's because it's at sea level.
They speak Dutch
Uh,
there, right?
yes, it's niedrig in German and nether, I suppose,
Now,
because
is German and are German and Dutch like Portuguese and Spanish? Can you understand Dutch if you speak German and vice versa, or no?
I am from Austria and I speak German and I can understand Dutch a little. I think it's like Italian and Spanish,
Hmm.
something like that.
Okay, cool.
I mean, Dutch is between English and German somehow. A lot of they borrowed a lot of words from English and from German.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay,
Mm.
so can you talk to me about your interests other than typology that fall into the scholarly realm of things, such as, well, I'm really interested in 6th century archaeology in Central Europe, or I'm really interested in astronomy or something like that.
I mean, I'm I studied theoretical physics, so I'm into physics and mathematics, and I'm working as a computer programmer for 25 years. So um, that
So, do you think
especially
observation is a force?
no
Okay.
observation is a no, not in the physical sense,
Okay. So then,
not in physics sense.
so what then collapses? What's meant by the collapse from superposition then?
Ah, from quantum mechanics, what's meant is that the particles, as long as you don't observe them, are in a state of superposition, which means they can be, for example, both have spin up and spin down, and if you observe, it collapses. But an observation means it interacts, for example, with a photon, which changes the state, but it is not a force.
Okay, so what's
That's
the mechanics by which observation causes super collapse? The collapse from superposition.
the mechanics.
Yeah, in other words, what's the mechanism by which those two things are linked?
Ah,
If not causality, if not some force vector.
that that is what we don't know, as far as I remember the physics. Why they are superpositioned is just, as my professor always said it, that it's just following from the mathematics. It's not
It's in its
that
pre-created state.
it's it, Yeah, it's in a pre-gradient. If, for example, if a particle emits two electrons and those are spin up and spin down, it's just following from the mathematics that they are in this state of superposition. And if you observe one, the other goes into the other state. But it's not a force. It's not a force as it's defined in physics.
Okay.
We
Interesting.
don't know what it is. We just know that it happens.
Well, we certainly talk about it as though it were a force.
Yeah, but no, at least physicists don't.
I
It's
mean,
not a force.
every time a physicist points to observation collapsing something from superposition, they certainly do. We can't put something in the role of agency without claiming that it's done anything, and then have it linked to a direct object. It's just grammatically insane, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, regardless, I don't mean to get into an
Yeah.
argument with you about theoretical physics, which I don't know. So I'm just curious about how people answer these kind of questions. So okay, can you talk to me about your relationship with art that you consume just for entertainment that's not teaching you anything? Like what kind of stuff you like?
Art. I mean,
Meaning any medium, video, book,
any medium.
yeah, any
Okay.
medium.
Sci-fi series, zombie apocalypse. I just watched The Walking Dead an episode before. From the books, mostly about software engineering. What's new in that field because that links to my profession. Currently, I'm reading Cognitive Personality Theory by Harry Murrell. For music, I like hard rock, AC/DC, Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, and Puccini. I really like the arias of Puccini.
Cool. What about film? Can you talk to me about what elements need to be placed or in place, or what if you walked away from watching a movie and said like, "Wow, that was great." What did it do?
I mean, it was not boring. That means there was some action happening. If it's a sci-fi movie, the physics is right.
So, what do you think when writers use what might be called sciencey talk to just sort of reference science, like well, we'll need to use the quantum accelerator to.
That's amazing. That's amazing if they do that. And I know for Star Trek they have special writers which just fill in those blanks, so they come up with a new idea for the warp drive to collapse some coils, and then they can do something.
So
I like that.
does that kind of stuff usually make some sense related to some physics concept, or is it just gobbledygook?
I mean, on Star Trek they have the Heisenberg compensator, which makes total no sense. But maybe they find out in the future that
It means
they
that
they cannot break the laws of nature.
they learn to manage uncertainty. They learn to dole it out in a percentage like nicotine in a vape.
Yeah, but I like those.
I like that kind of stuff too. Okay, so did you like better Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Trek.
Okay, do you not like Star Wars?
No, I like it, but I like Star Trek more.
Do you find the weird kind of future primitive tech of Star Wars, the lack of user interface, for example, all these buttons and knobs and shit? Do you find that like annoying as a backdrop technologically?
No, that's not what's disturbing me. It's more like fantasy. It's not sci-fi for me. It's
In other words, just throwing it out into outer space doesn't make it science fiction.
yeah, something like that.
Okay,
There's the
cool.
princess, and she has to be rescued, and so.
Did you ever read Ringworld?
unfortunately, but it's on my list.
It's a good one. I'd recommend
I
it.
think so.
It's very sciencey. You probably like that aspect of it, but
Mm.
it's also very adventure-y. So it keeps moving. It moves fast. You know, it doesn't.
But there is a lot of of how do you call books? I mean, it's a trilogy or something like that, right?
Yeah, but only the first one really stands out
Okay, the
as
first one.
great. You know, the follow-up ones are kind of yeah.
Mm.
Okay, so have you ever heard of the author David Bren?
Yes,
Have you read any of his stuff?
I think I read this one where there's some life in the sun. I don't know how it's called. This one. This is long ago.
Sunworms.
I don't know.
That's where science has been getting it wrong this whole time. They've been thinking that sunlight is like wave or particle or something like that or something in between. Really, they're worms. They're just worms of sunshine. Okay. Anyway,
And I think he wrote another one where this one I like. I think it was David Brin, where an evolutionary step takes place for humanity, and suddenly a new kind of Homo appears, and the children can talk immediately after birth and are totally cooperative. That was interesting.
I'm not
So
familiar with that one.
he compared it with from Homo I don't from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens, this step, and now from Homo sapiens to this new one, this step. And
Did
they are hunted because they are smarter, and so that was a nice one. So the first new babies of a new human species. I like that idea.
he also wrote the Uplift War, which is this series of books about aliens coming. And it turns out the major currency of sort of like the galactic politics is species on your planet that have the potential to be raised into sentience
Hmm.
evolutionarily, you know. But and then of course, if like this nice race of aliens comes and alerts us ahead of time, like stop killing all the dolphins and shit. And so we hurry up and like hide all our dead bodies, and then the aliens come down, and we're what's known as a wolf planet. Like normally, all the intelligent species have been raised up by some other
Ah,
species, but they find us here, and we're like, where did they come from? You know. Anyway,
okay.
that's a good series. It'd be worth it. But let me not get off task chatting about science fiction with you. Can you tell me the optimal number of steps, the ideal number of steps to break down the process of getting or shaving?
5.
Can you tell me what they are?
Uh, Put the shaving foam in your face. Take the shaver. How is it shaver? I'm using
The razor.
the razor, the wet razor, out of its box. Shave your this part, chin,
Face.
here,
Your face. Yeah.
the face. Uh, Wash the remaining foam from your face and put the aftershave on it.
Okay. Interesting. I typed somebody earlier today who gave a very robust TE answer, very much like yours there. He said 4 steps, and then at the very end he said, or it could be 5 if you want to include aftershave. So, you know, TE minds think alike, I guess. So that's obviously indicative of fairly strong TE. Do you feel like you know clearly what you want?
Yes.
And like, do you know what you want to do after this session is over?
Yes, I will. If you send me the link to the videos, I will analyze it and see what what I can learn from it.
Okay. And and can you talk about some of the kinds of problems that you might encounter and solve at work, at least in a vague sense?
Um, Biggest problem is if you have I'm some context. I'm a computer game programmer, so for 25 years, and currently we're working on Hitman 3. And the biggest problem is if you get a bug. Bug is some user, some player reports something is not working, and you have to find this one, and you have to reproduce it. And
Oh, so somebody reports a bug. When I
yeah,
go over there to this place, I get stuck in the wall. When my
yeah,
guys walk in and get stuck in the wall, and then you got to make that happen in order to figure out how to fix it.
yes, I have to reproduce it. I have to. Can I really reproduce? That's the most important thing, that you can reproduce the bug reliably. And then you have to use the so-called debugger and set the proper breakpoint in the code so that you know, that's the condition which failed when this happens. And usually it's always a if statement is missing. Something was not properly taken into account when this code was written. And the biggest problem is if this code is 5 years old and the person who originally wrote it is no longer with the company, and now you're stuck with this, finding out and solving the problem.
All
I
right.
hate
Well, I
it.
mean, it's like there's back when I first started playing on a computer, which was like Apple IIe.
Mm-hmm.
Programming was very conditional, TI, but now programming is much more TE because so
Yes,
many blocks of programming have already been written and they just get moduled into
yes,
things.
exactly. You have a lot of blocks and you just put them together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, interesting. Okay. And do you like to play video games?
No, I'm working 6 hours per day making them, but I like playing cards with people. So when I play, I prefer to play in the physical world, not video games.
You know, Austrians do have a slightly different accent than Germans.
Yes, we do.
You've got that Arnold Schwarzenegger thing going
Yeah,
on.
I'm exactly from the same location where Annie is from.
Well, he was our governor here in California for a while, so I gotta say, kind of a weird guy. Who is it? Somebody tells this hilarious story. Bill Haley, Bill Hadley, or whatever, tells a story about when he was working as an assistant in Hollywood, and like Arnold Schwarzenegger came in the room and said, like, "Show me your leadership skills," or something like that. Anyway, okay, so all right. Well, obviously, I'm leaning somewhere already. But let me try to see if we can pin down some locations of things. Can you tell me any time? And can you tell me some examples of times where you can think of when either you used your intuition and should have used your experience, or vice versa?
No,
Okay. Can you think of instances where you did something when you should have said something, or said something when you should have did something, done something?
I said something when I should have
Done
done
something,
some.
or the opposite, when you did something when you should have said something.
No.
Okay. So, for example, if I give you, let me see if giving you some examples helps at all.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to come up, very hard for me to come up with an example of a time when I said something but should have done something. But I did finally come up with one after some thought. And back in college, I had this opportunity to kind of like to kiss this girl, but instead of kissing this girl, I was shy and talked more and stuff, and it never ended. It kind of fizzled out, and I should have kissed that girl, basically. So that's an example of it. I should have done something, but instead I kept talking. I can think of the other way more easily, where I've done something, but I should have engaged in more talking, like or more ideation about it, such as usually buying something that I haven't thought about buying long enough. Oh, like
No,
I can't think of a precise example right off the top of my head.
no. Did- I have one where I should have done something and I kept learning.
You should have done something you kept learning.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the example was many years ago. I was learning how to count cards in blackjack, and I was pretty good, and I could count it pretty fast down. And then I went to the casino, and after and then I saw that they're shuffling the shoe all the time. So the card counting was totally stupid. So I should have just did some research before go to the casino and look how it works.
Did you spend some time trying to card count before realizing that the thing was shuffling, or no? Like, did you realize that right away? That, oh, this is futile because of this the way they
Yes.
got.
Now, when I was there and I saw what they did, and I left. I mean, I was so annoyed at myself.
Okay, so an example of using your experience when you should have used your intuition would have been if you had walked in there and sat down at the table and been so focused on your plan to count cards that it took you like an hour to notice that, oh shit, this is all pointless because this thing's shuffling them constantly, right?
Aha. Okay. I see.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let me try some TI questions. I'm sure you'll do just fine with them, but if only potatoes have eyes and I have eyes, am I necessarily a potato?
Yes.
Okay. If some South Americans eat bananas and all banana eaters wear Panama hats, is it necessarily the case that some South Americans wear Panama hats?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell me who my mother's sister's husband's son is in relationship to me?
Your cousin.
Right. Okay, and can you tell me what today is Thursday? Can you tell me what yesterday's, tomorrow's yesterday is?
Today.
Okay.
Thursday.
Cool. All right. So what do you can you think of an instance where a situation required you to schmooze, but you didn't schmooze, and you thought later, oh, I instead tried to solve this problem, but I should have glad-handed, like, hey, how you doing, buddy? Really good to see you.
Where I should have smoothed. I mean, is that when my girlfriend has a problem and instead of solving it, I just would have confirmed her? Or,
Well, I mean, that would that could be. It depends. It's like, okay, so if instead of solving a problem, you're a good listener and you commiserate, which is to say, wow, that must really feel bad, that's more likely to be FI than FE. But if
mhm,
instead you're, let's say you take a positive, encouraging approach, maybe you are such a strong person. You can deal with this. Well, that'd be a little bit more FE, but FE might do either of them as a portrayal of I care, virtue signaling, basically. But for those of us who use it as modalities, it's a little reductive to call it virtue signaling.
mhm.
Nevertheless, so can you think of a time when you ought to have virtue signaled, failed to do so, and realized that you ought to have later?
No, don't think so.
Okay.
I try to avoid that.
Okay. So, can you think of an occasion when you tried to figure out something yourself but should have asked somebody else?
Oh, yes, okay. Um, if I'm stuck, for example, with solving this bug, I ask for help from others.
Yeah, you do that consistently, though. It's not like you think say to yourself, "God, I wish I hadn't struggled with this for such a long time before I finally got around to asking them."
No, I will avoid struggling for too long because the task has to be, the bug has to be fixed. But I will invest an hour or 2 hours, and if I don't have any, I mean, it means I have already gathered a lot of
Data.
data which I can use if I ask the other person for help.
I see. Interesting. Okay, cool. Uh, so in general, do you work with smart people?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. And as you move through the world, are you generally satisfied by how things are set up?
No,
You know, you live in Austria, right?
yes.
Austria's pretty nice. I've been there before.
Eh,
What do you not like? What's so dissatisfying about Austria? Right.
No, but you said about the whole world. Austria is fine, I think.
Okay. Well, that's very pulling it back to NI. So it's like when I say that, I'm imagining you walking down the street, looking around at the world. Okay, from an SI perspective, and then you're interpreting it understandably as me just saying, "What do you think about the world outside of your experience?" But
Hmm.
if you try to, so when you do try to link it to your experience, you draw different conclusions.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. And which conclusion, like, do you think that you would benefit from including more experience in your knowledge? You would be harmed by more experience in your knowledge, or neither?
I would be what? By
But
harmed?
harmed, right? In other words, would your knowing of things be better if you included more of your particular experience, or do you have a
Yeah, of
balanced?
course.
It would.
Of the more you experience, that sure it helps. I know that I'm getting better and better over the last 25 years in programming because I have much more experience than 25 years ago when I started.
Okay. Right. Well, in that instance, yeah, okay. You're talking about like the cumulative effect of practical learning and stuff. I guess. Okay. Cool. That's informative enough. What's going on here with my phone? Somebody's well on my phone. Let's see what's happening. I don't see anything important. It's just that guy who always sends me a million text messages. He sends me like literally like 100 texts, and then I'll reply to one of them, and they'll send me like 100 texts. I think he's a NTP or NFP. I'm not sure. Anyway, okay. So, do you have ideas for how to solve the problems that you see in the world outside of Austria?
Yes.
Do you have ones that you prioritize in your head as thinking, if I were in a position to implement some plan of mine or some idea for some solution, basically, this would be the one I'd prioritize?
I have one with which one I would start first, yes. But then I would add more on it on top of it.
Okay, in order to implement this plan, would you have to be king of the world or just king of Austria?
Yes. Not king of the world.
Oh, king of the world, okay. See, at least my plan only requires that I be king of America. Okay, so do you have any particular philosophers or kind of writers about consciousness, human experience, that kind of thing that you found influential to your thinking?
That's that that for me it was Daniel Quinn when he wrote Ishmael and Beyond Civilization, and that really helped me understand why things are as they are. And currently I'm reading this guy, what is it called? The Dutch guy. He's about idealism, which is an interesting concept. And then this Danish one with his simulation theory, that we might live in a simulation. That's another fascinating one. But Daniel Quinn is for me the most important one.
Okay, and so give me the gist of what his overarching meow was.
So his gist is, um, it, it's not that humans are flawed and we have to be rescued. Basically, it says that we are trapped in a set of cultural memes, but those are not internet memes. Those are memes in how Richard Dawkins uses them, which we hold for true, and that's why our civilization is as it is. And he identified those, and now I see them. That's the reason. He always, I really like it. He always sees himself as an Martian anthropomorphologist, observing humanity from outside, what they do. And then he came up. It took him 50 years to come up with this. And I mean, I'm reading his books once every year since 15 years, and every time I get something new out of it.
It's funny that you say that he positions himself as that, because it's as far away from my statement about such matters as possible, which is the first job is to articulate the particulars of why you're writing this book, why you're writing this philosophy, or whatever it is, because in that regard, you're properly including yourself within the larger box of analysis rather than trying to exclude yourself from it. And you're explaining how this is necessarily going to reflect certain implicit biases in you. You cannot stand outside like that and maintain this like clarity of objective scrutiny that's unavailable to those being scrutinized. It's imaginary. But that it's like those are how our respective whatever kind of meme you're talking about there, the frames of reference being projected out as norms play out, I guess. Okay, cool. So it's interesting that you're you've watched a lot of typing sessions and such, and are also very interested in that kind of book and stuff. Did you first come into cognitive functions via like Jungian archetypes or what?
Yeah, that was interesting. That was maybe half a year ago when we were on my colleagues. We were in home office and we had a Friday drink up with Microsoft Teams, and one of them suggested we do this 16 personalities test on this homepage, and we did it. And then I got interested and I searched on YouTube and I found Frank James, but that was kind of boring. And then YouTube suggested socionics to me, and I learned about that, and then went to World Socionic Society and looked at their videos. And then I found this video where Jack Aaron is talking with you about your stuff and socionics, and since then I'm following your channel. And this was pretty hard because you have 6,000 videos, and I had to go through all of. I mean, I went through them since 2019 because I noticed in 2016 you were still influenced by socionics.
Yeah,
But then,
yeah.
but and then I went through those videos, and sometimes you posted a Google document, and I collected those. And a week ago you made this public folder where all of your documents are there, and this is awesome. And I would like to thank you for this.
Oh, sure. Yeah, there's a different another INTJ. You got to be INTJ. I mean, that's what I'm gleaning here. I haven't checked for. It's hard to check FE polar. I could try to do the sarcasm test, but given that you're a non-native English speaker, I would find it basically collapses into meaninglessness, whatever the results are. So it's one of those. It's one of those kind of things where I'm hampered by certain cultural biases in the way that I approach the thing. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's ideally suited for Americans, like every America thing. We're just sort of blithely presumptuous about like everybody's like America.
I see that.
So anyway, I do think you're an INTJ. There's been nothing to suggest anything but that in this typing session. Your T is good. Your TI is really good, but it's also practiced, and it's there's this slight lag that makes me go not INTP, and you're clearly NI in the way you communicate. Everything's thought before you speak it. You speak it all out in whole, and then you stop speaking. There's some FEQing, like that kind of head nodding, but I've seen that in INTJs before. It seems to be kind of machine code level FE that even INTJs have, you know. So,
Yeah, I thought so too. I came in with INTJ. I thought so.
and of course, the question I like to ask every INTJ I type is, do you relate to the statement, everyone's doing everything wrong, and though I am enraged by it, I will show them nothing?
I'm enraged is too. Enraged is too hard for me. I'm
Okay,
not
that's too hard.
enraged. I'm kind of maybe more disappointed or so.
Right.
I'm now more enraged. I was when I was younger, but now I'm more settled.
So you're mellowed. You've mellowed
Yeah.
into acceptance of that the world just isn't
Yeah.
really going to be smart about how it does things.
Yeah. I come to terms with it.
That's cool. Yeah, we do all. I think people either age into a more optimal version of themselves, or spiral down into muck, and there's not really anything in between, you know. Okay, so well, we've got some time left. You got any questions or your comments
Yes,
or?
yes. I have thank you for this. So what I would like to know, because as a reference for myself later, How does each cognitive function manifest itself on the physical and metaphysical level for the INTJs?
Okay, so NI manifests foremost makes you a knower of what things are based on qualities implicit to their identity. In other words, NI links to shape constancy, the idea that no matter what direction you look at something from, it's still the same thing. And so there's that understanding first and foremost that you can know holistically what is true about the world. And because you're TE second, not TI, there's an acceptance as well that that holistic knowledge might not be reducible into wholly defensible claims, because there's this element of synergy that causes certain truths to just be irreducible, which makes INTJs go through life basically knowing about the particular things in the world, but knowing about them universally,
Okay.
which usually turns out to be, if you get in the right kind of field, means INTJs are usually good earners, for example, because they can do hard things other people can't do. Because it means they're intuiting. First means that they can approach problems of the greatest abstract complexity with their TE rather than problems of less abstract complexity. Like it's interesting to see an ESTJ like my dad try to do. He got his PhD in philosophy, but he has zero NI. It's weird. um, so then in the third slot, FI manifests.
What's the NI in the first slot on the physical level?
Right. Sorry. Physically, it's something I don't know, because it's above SE. The physical aspect of NI, I'm not sure how much you're going to relate to this, but I'll describe what it is, and you can see if you experience a lot or not. But is, for example, one time I was driving in the car and I could just tell that this guy here was gonna come over here, and there was a guy behind me, and so I slowed down in advance. I'm not sure what set of cues it was that made me be successfully like put on the brakes and make the space I needed to make before the thing that happened that I needed
Ah,
that
so
needed
it's
to make the
about
space for.
timing, about proper or the recognizing proper timing.
Yeah, and kind of like precognizance in the sense that I can't explain to you exactly how it was that I knew this was going to happen. It was some combination of the situation, the body language of the driver that I could see from the back of their
I see.
heads or something. It's like a combination of little cues just must have happened to have my intuition go, you need to leave. This is about to be a mess.
Ah, okay, I see. I can relate to that. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the only example I can come up with for my own life, because I'm NI ignoring. So it's not usually, it's when I'm driving, basically, is the only time when I have an opportunity to even really be cognizant of that kind of thing. So and then the metaphysical level is how it's mostly going to manifest, which is to say, because it's N above S, it's, you're going to know the identity of things that are of intuitive concern, which are communication, mapping kind of matters, rather than things that are of physical concern, like that driving thing I just described. With the TE and the metaphysical is mostly about explaining things to people. So
Okay.
but explaining them in terms of steps that they need to take to accomplish something, rather than explaining in terms of conceptual whys, which will tend to get bogged down in, okay, well, there's holistic elements here I can't really express, and then the INTJ will get frustrated if there's pushback, because it seems like the other person's not using what they're saying, not trying to make what their INTJ is saying useful, but rather trying to make it not useful, even though there's useful truth within it. So that would be how TE expresses metaphysically. TE expressing physically is probably not something you spend a lot of time doing, but it's like fixing a broken doorknob or something,
Okay. Yeah.
where you got to look at the physical object and go, okay, how does this thing go into this thing to make this thing go like that, like
Yes.
that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Now, in the third slot, there's there's FI, which is on the physical level is every time you have an emotion, you have a physical sensation as well.
Yes,
And
I have.
you might already know that. As a bipolar person, I had to be told that before I started to realize it was true. So
I see.
anyway, then on the metaphysical level, it's just basically that experience of the reality of emotional weight across time. So if you have if you're an FI Dom, presumably you're good at knowing whether this decision you make now is gonna how you're gonna feel about it 2 weeks from now or something.
Hmm.
I don't know how that would be accomplished, but again, I'm poor. So okay,
Hmm.
fourth slot we've got SE. In the
Hmm.
physical capacity, it just means like going and taking a walk or something like that. Basically when Rachel needs you, what you're gonna find because you're a metaphysical type first that the relief aspect of SE is the physical aspect. The thing that will give
Yes,
you a relief from yourself is to go out and take a walk, shit like that.
yes, I
Whereas,
totally agree because I'm doing that almost every day.
whereas
Or
the
just dancing when there's a nice song and I dance for 2 minutes, something like that.
right, and
Okay.
the metaphysical aspect of that is going to be basically following through on tasks that you had planned,
Yeah. Okay.
checking shit off a list.
Hmm.
Then eight slot function is your most unconscious. I'm going to go that way instead of back over to the top. Okay. Eight slot function is the most unconscious, which means of all functions, it should be the one you can least recall instances of utilizing it. And that means that, but regardless, on the physical level, it's going to be having what I call the rise, which you probably never really get. That's when you get into bed and go, "Oh yeah, this is so comfortable." Right. And
No,
like,
that doesn't happen.
or when you get into a bath and go, "Ah, this is so nice and hot," and oh, that's SI stuff. Okay, on the physical,
Hmm.
on the metaphysical, it's the other half of SE metaphysical, which is keeping track of the shit you got to check off your list,
Hmm. Okay.
and also keeping track of shit that you did before and checked off of lists. So then, in the seventh slot, polar FE, that's basically it boils down to that question of do you default to trying to figure it out yourself, or do you default to asking other people, as well
Okay.
as do you default to working the the problem that doesn't link to people, or do you default to working the side of the problem where you can engage with people, and then so with the polar, basically your default operational value is TE. So that
Yes.
means the other interface function FE is not one that's going to be very present in like it's gonna be the missing one. The one you've got two ways of knowing, two ways of acting, two ways deliberating, but you've only got one way kind of interfacing. So anyhow, but regardless, the FE on the metaphysical would be concerning yourself with overall perceptions across time at the expense of the mood of the room right now. On the physical level, it would be the other way around. If you is one way of looking at it. Like if you're an ISFJ or an INFJ, you're more likely. But if you're an ISFJ, you're much more likely to be concerned with how the mood of the room is right now. If you're an INFJ, you're much more likely to be concerned with what impression you leave in the bigger stories over the longer haul.
Hmm. Okay.
And then back down to your sixth slot, then we've got TI countervalued, which is countervalued for the reason I said, which is you think the things you say ought to be understood as potentially valuable to the other party, and that other party ought to seek and gather the value from it and appreciate it rather than critique it. That's what makes
Okay.
it countervalued. On the metaphysical level, it's all this TI stuff that we talk about, like deductive reasoning problems and stuff like that, and logic or
Hmm.
whatnot. On a physical level, it's like a circuit board.
Ah, okay, I see. I remember you always. I remember a video where you explained that with the circuit board. Okay.
And in either instance, you countervalue it because it's like it's too much like the long way around.
Yes.
Okay, and then any in the fifth means that you have as an absolute value for the external world, especially their creativity, originality, or well done deviation from the norm.
Hmm.
And if somebody's totally unoriginal and maybe tells you the same story over and over again, those are the people you're gonna like excise from your life because you're just like, okay, I can't have this. And so,
I like that you say well done original. That's the important thing. It must be well done.
right, yeah,
That's
it's because in both instances, the intuition doms are the like arbiters of mapping elegance. So
mhm.
if there's a failure to be, it's like it's almost as though if it's not well done, it can't be called original.
Yes,
Really, you know.
yes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
on the metaphysical, it's like this. This is just Eric. On the physical, it's Eric, but with physical things, which is
Okay.
not. If you ever watched one of my videos with me and power tools, you probably were like, "Uh oh, this is not going to
Mhm.
end well."
Okay, cool.
All right, cool. So I will stop recording this now. Do you want me to share it with you privately, or are you cool with me
That,
publishing?
I think no, I'm cool with it publishing.
Okay,
That was,
fantastic. Thank you. So I'll publish
cool.
it right now and premiere it for as soon as it's done.